Ladies and gentlemen, there is a quiet war we wage every day, not against the world, but against ourselves. We resist change, we resist uncertainty, we resist life itself, and in this resistance, we suffer. The most self-destructive habit isn't addiction, procrastination, or fear, it's resistance. We resist change, resist discomfort, resist life itself, and in doing so, we create suffering where there need be none. We wake up each morning with a silent expectation that the world should bend to our desires, that things should unfold according to our carefully laid plans. But life has never operated on human terms. It moves in its own rhythm, shifting, evolving, breaking apart and coming together in ways we cannot predict. And yet, we resist. We resist uncertainty. Even though uncertainty is the foundation of existence. We want to know what will happen, we want guarantees, we want control. But control is an illusion, and the harder we cling to it, the more anxious we become. We fear the unknown because we think safety lies in certainty, but in truth, life is only ever happening now, and the only real safety is in learning to be present with it. We resist pain, as if pushing it away will make it disappear. But what we resist, we amplify. The more we fight sadness, the heavier it feels. The more we struggle against anxiety, the more trapped we become. We have been taught that happiness is the absence of suffering, but happiness is not about avoiding pain. No, it's about not being enslaved by it. Pain passes through like a storm, but when we resist, we hold on to it, making it last far longer than necessary. We resist change because we think we must hold on to what we have. We tell ourselves that if we just keep everything the same, we will be safe. But life does not work that way. The river does not stop for anyone. The seasons turn whether we approve or not. And the more we resist the natural movement of life, the more we suffer. We cling to relationships that have run their course, jobs that drain us, identities that no longer fit, all because we are afraid of what comes next. But what if, instead of resisting change, we welcomed it? What if we trusted that life knows what it is doing, even when we do not? Resistance is what keeps us stuck. It is what makes us live half alive, always waiting for some imagined future where everything will finally be right. But life does not begin once everything is perfect. It is happening now, in the chaos, in the uncertainty, in the imperfection. The irony is that the moment we stop resisting, the moment we surrender to what is, we find the peace we have been searching for all along. Surrender does not mean passivity. It does not mean giving up or becoming indifferent. It means fully engaging with life as it is, not as we wish it to be. It means meeting each moment with openness instead of resistance. When we stop fighting what we cannot control, we free ourselves to focus on what we can: our actions, our perspectives, our ability to respond with wisdom rather than fear. Imagine a leaf floating down a river. If it resists, it will get caught in branches, stuck in the debris, unable to move forward. But if it lets go, it flows effortlessly, carried by the current to places it never could have reached on its own. We are not so different. When we let go of resistance, life begins to move through us with an ease we never thought possible. We begin to trust that even in uncertainty, we will be okay. So the question is, how much longer will we fight? How much longer will we struggle against the inevitable, demanding that life be different than it is? What would happen if we finally let go? Maybe, just maybe, we would find that freedom was never in control. It was in surrender all along. We cling to expectations, to the past, to an idea of how life should be, and in doing so, we create our own misery. We hold tightly to plans, to identities, to people, believing that if we just maintain control, if we can shape life into our desired image, then we will find peace. But life does not operate on demand. It moves, it shifts, it unfolds in ways we cannot predict. And the tighter we grip, the more we suffer. We are taught from a young age to strive, to plan, to set goals and chase them relentlessly. We are told that if we work hard enough, think smart enough, and prepare well enough, life will reward us. But reality does not bend to our will. Unexpected loss, sudden change, disappointment, so they arrive uninvited, shattering our carefully constructed expectations. And when they do, we resist. We resist by clinging to what was, by wishing things had gone differently, by refusing to accept the simple truth that nothing is permanent. The past becomes a prison when we refuse to let go. We replay old conversations, revisit old wounds, and relive mistakes as if we could rewrite them through sheer will. But the past is a closed book, and no amount of analysis or regret will change its pages. And yet, we resist moving forward, as if holding on to the past protects us from an uncertain future. We convince ourselves that if we had done something differently, if life had unfolded another way, we would be happier, more fulfilled, more at peace. But this is an illusion. The only moment that truly exists is now, and the longer we fight the past, the more we miss the present. Our expectations, too, become a source of suffering. We expect people to behave a certain way, and when they don't, we feel betrayed. We expect success to come at a particular time, and when it doesn't, we feel like failures. We expect love to follow a script, and when it diverges, we feel lost. Expectations are stories we tell ourselves about how life should be, and when reality does not match the story, we resist it. But life was never meant to be controlled by our expectations. It is not meant to be gripped, it is meant to be experienced. The more we fight against what is, the more exhausted we become. Resistance is a constant tension, a battle that drains us, leaving us feeling frustrated, anxious, and stuck. But what if we stopped fighting? What if, instead of demanding that life follow our script, we allowed it to unfold? The key to breaking free from self-destruction is not force, but flow. Flow is not passivity. It is not giving up or resigning ourselves to fate. It is learning to move with life instead of against it. It is understanding that change is not the enemy, but the natural rhythm of existence. It is meeting each moment as it comes, without judgment, without resistance, without the need to control. When we embrace flow, we stop seeing obstacles as punishments and start seeing them as part of the journey. This does not mean that life will always be easy. Pain will still come, loss will still happen. But suffering, our mental resistance to what I saw, begins to dissolve when we stop clinging. When we stop resisting and start embracing, we realize that life was never against us, it was only waiting for us to trust it. The river does not fight the rocks in its path, it moves around them. The wind does not struggle against the trees, it flows through them. And we, too, can learn to move with life rather than against it. So the question is, how much longer will we grip? How much longer will we demand that life conform to our expectations? What if, just for a moment, we let go? Perhaps in that moment, we would finally see that peace was never in control, it was in surrender all along. The greatest suffering we experience is not from life itself, but from our resistance to it. We cling to expectations, the past, and our desire for control, only to find ourselves frustrated and exhausted. But life was never meant to be gripped, it was meant to be lived. When we stop resisting and start embracing, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering. True peace is not found in controlling life, but in flowing with it. Let go, trust the process, and you will see a life was never against you. It was only waiting for you to surrender. So I ask you, how much longer will you fight what already is? How much energy will you waste trying to control the uncontrollable? Perhaps, just for a moment, you can stop resisting. And in that moment, you may find what you were looking for all along, a peace.